It is now time to experience the buzz, a podcast that takes an inside look at amazing people doing amazing things. Get ready for some great conversation that will be fascinating, educational, and inspiring. We will also leave room to help small businesses in a big way. Now, here's your host, entrepreneur STEVE BUZZARD.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into another edition of Experience the Buzz. So glad you can join us as we get ready to celebrate another year of episodes on ETB. I'm your host, Steve Buzzard, and today it is episode number 109. Craig Olson, who is my nephew-in-law. He is a teaching pastor at Crossroads Christian Church in Corona, California. Now, you may be asking yourself, wait, isn't that in Southern California? That is true, but he does have a NorCal connection. This is also part of a series that we are doing in which I am interviewing Tyler Swaney, who you heard last week. He's my nephew. His sister is married to Craig Olson, who will be on the show today. And then next week, we're going to speak to Jim Swaney. He is a pastor in Sebastopol, which is in the Bay Area. More on Craig in just a minute. It's now time for What's the Buzz. Now, in What's the Buzz, listen, a new year and a new opportunity. If you are a small business out there, we would love to invite you to be a part of our program. We have customizable menu in which you can jump on board and we can just highlight your small business. So right now in place, we have R5 Stitch and Print, we have Little Whale Swim School, and we have Pit Boss Jerky. Pretty cool because two of the three have been with me since day one, and we've had up to 5-6 sponsors that have been on the program. And it's very simple. When you go to buzzardball.com and then go to the podcast part where you can become a sponsor, it'll be all laid out for you. But the big thing that I want to share with you is that it is customizable. Let me give you an example. With R5 Stitch and Print, we just do trade. With Pit Boss Jerky, I get beef jerky for life. You can't ask for anything more. And then Little Whale Swim School, they do a monthly payment that they put in place, and we highlight Little Whale Swim School. So it's very simple. It can be done different ways. So you can check into that. Once again, that's buzzardball.com. Now, we also I want to let you know that we're on both the audio and video side. If you're just a new person that's come aboard and have come across this, we tell the stories of Sacramento, people from this area. And on the audio side, you can get us on buzzardball.com, which is the website, but you can find us on Apple, find us on Spotify, and of course, we would love for you to subscribe. And all that does is just alert you to our new episodes that are coming out. Usually they come out every week on Friday. We also have a YouTube presence. Check that out. Just go to Experience the Buzz, or at least search for that, and you'll find us. We've been doing it since episode 80 with my producer, Michael Kenobi. All right, so that is it for What's the Buzz. Now let's get into what's going to be a great conversation today. It is episode number 109. His name is Craig Olson. Enjoy the conversation. And hello, everyone. Welcome into another exciting edition of Experience the Buzz. We are in the new year, and this is actually part 2 of a 3-part series that I'm bringing your way. Was just thinking of a different way to maybe kick off the new year as we get ready to celebrate year number 2 of Experience the Buzz. And last week, we spoke with Tyler Swaney, family. He's my nephew. He is a senior pastor. And now we're going to speak to Craig Olson, who is my nephew-in-law. He is married to Tyler's sister, Christina Olson. And how about this? He too is a pastor. He is at Crossroads Christian Church in Corona, California, but did spend a good amount of time up here in Northern California at Bayside Folsom. So there's the introduction. Craig, welcome to Experience the Buzz.
Oh, Steve, so good to be here. And congratulations, by the way. This is an incredible journey. Year 2, hard to believe. And it's just been so fun to experience the buzz, but also experience your journey and to hear so much. And so, excited to be here. Thanks for having me. So fun.
Yeah, this is good stuff. And Craig, it's crazy because we're recording this basically the day after that I just spoke with Tyler. Okay, so like you won't have heard his episode. He obviously had some great things to talk about in regards to you as far as being a mentor and stuff. But that's why I think this 3-part series is important, because it gives 3 different aspects. There are some similarities to your stories, you and Tyler, but there's also some big differences as well. And so maybe just explain for the people what it is that you do, what your current position is, and kind of give us a feel for that. And then we'll get into some questions.
Yeah, so good. Like you said, Steve, I'm at Crossroads Christian Church in Corona, which is just funny in and of itself. So if you go back a little bit, I'm born and raised in Southern California, so this is all home. But Corona was never the home. I'm a Orange County kid, born and raised out in Fullerton, and honestly was sort of in that window of time where Corona was starting to boom, and being a snobby, bratty Orange County kid, we sort of turned our nose up to Corona. And may God have mercy on your soul if you ever had to drive out to Corona or further. I'll never forget driving out when I was in college, driving out to the Van Buren drive-in theaters, if you're familiar with the Inland Empire. And we legitimately, we prayed before we went out because it's just what you did. We were in church. But we legitimately prayed for our safety because we thought, man, we have to drive through Corona and then into Riverside, and it's going to be dangerous out there. And, just wild. So to be where we are today, man, is no doubt certainly the hand of God without question. But where I'm sitting today, never did I ever think that I would be doing what I'm doing today. So where we're at now, we've been back here at Crossroads for a year, and my current position is I'm a teaching pastor here. So I carry responsibilities that pertain to teaching on the weekends. I'll preach on weekends. We actually have a Wednesday night service where we dig a little bit deeper. We call it our house of study. And we dive a little bit deeper into content. And interestingly, when we're recording this, we actually kick off a series through the book of 1 John where we're going to go verse by verse and really word by word through 1 John. And so Pastor Chuck, our senior pastor, he and I will kind of tag team this, and it'll be months long. And so we're just excited about that. And my relationship with Pastor Chuck is an interesting one. So when I got hired a year ago to come back to Crossroads, I spent a season here from 2015 to 2018. I'll talk about that in a little bit. Was hired to be the teaching pastor with the intention of stepping into the senior pastor position here at Crossroads, which, by the way, a couple months ago celebrated its 130th anniversary.
Wow.
The Crossroads is 130 years old. October of 1892 was when it was founded. Before the city of Corona was incorporated as a city, this church was in existence. And so it predates the city, which is wild. In 6 years, I'll step into the senior pastor position here at the church, which is such an interesting, it's somewhat unheard of in Christian church circles, that there's not a lot of stories of years-long succession plans for someone to transition out and then somebody to transition in. A lot of times, most churches don't last beyond its founding pastor, or there's transition that's not healthy. And so I love where we're at. I love transition's a huge passion of mine. I've seen it done really well. I've seen it not done really well. And man, if I'm not smart enough to write a book, don't barely feel smart enough to do what I'm doing. But if I ever were to write a book, it'd be about this. And so that's where we're at. When I say we, married, of course, you shared, I'm married to your niece,
Yep.
Tia, that the family, calls her. And so we've been married for 13 years. We have 2 kids. Our daughter, Camden, she's 10. Our son, Cade, he's 8. And I say it like this: parenting is wild, and my kids make me old and keep me young all at the same time. I know you probably feel that, and it goes by like that.
Yes.
So
Absolutely. And Craig, I think it's safe to say, you are where you are exactly supposed to be. But I have to be honest with you, I didn't realize that this is the calling that you wanted. Okay. And we're going to dive into that because, there was a time where I thought, I remember the day when there were positions open here at St. Michael's that I taught at for 26 years. And I reached out to you to say, hey,
Yep.
I think this would be a great position. Now, as far as teaching, like you've got that within you, but I also realized too about you, Craig, I feel like you could do anything, and so to see where you are at right now is just pretty amazing to me. And I can tell there's a piece that I can see that's come over you. Like, okay, this is where we need to be. And what's interesting is I'll keep pinballing between you and Tyler, just these journeys of going from Southern California to Northern California, because you did have a stint here. You didn't pinball as much because you're more SoCal than Tyler probably is. But
Right.
just like being in the spot, do you really feel like for yourself, like, okay, this is where I wanted to land?
It's so funny that you ask that, because I would say that in different seasons of my life, there would be unequivocal yeses to that question. But there's something different about this. My journey is unique in that this was never the plan. Like sitting at my desk here as a teaching pastor to one day step into the senior pastor position, it was not the goal, but and I'll share, obviously, we'll get there. But where we are at now is there's a couple of factors to it, I believe. First of all, I genuinely believe, my wife and I both believe, that we are exactly where God wants us to be. And we don't feel any other pull elsewhere. This church is unique. I'll talk about this church a little later, but this church is different, and it's always felt like family here. But where we're at now and what we're doing now, we do believe that this is what God has for us. And I think some of that stems from desires that you have within you. The Bible talks about, share your desires with the Lord. He wants to fulfill the desires of your heart. And if those align with his will for your life, man, and I think that God works in such a way where he's not a hide and seek God, like, ooh, see if you can come find me, like come find your will. I think if you honestly pursue him and you earnestly seek him, there are going to be promptings that you experience in your heart and in your life, and you see a redirection in your life that if you will be willing to run after the Lord with all that you have, there's going to be oftentimes alignment in the things that you desire and the purposes and will that he has for your life, because you're so close. You think about the relationship that you have with your, with Chrissy, with your wife, and you think about how much you guys are on the same page. That wasn't like that from day one when you guys met, but you look at the years that you guys have been together. Because you're so close, you can almost predict what you're thinking. It's not any different with the Lord, like you are so close to the Lord. And so where we are at today is so much of, we genuinely believe this is what the Lord wants for us. And I think some of that also too plays into our family, the season of life that we're in. We've done a lot of moving, and that'll be part of the story. Like we've done a lot of moving. We've moved around quite a bit. And of course, Tia, and her brother Tyler that was on last week, they moved around a lot too. And so that's it's kind of unique to the call of full-time vocational ministry that can happen. But I think the season of life that our kids are in has changed a lot of the desires that I've had in my life. I think not wanting to miss out in what they're experiencing. My kids can have, they can have different teachers, they can have different coaches, they can go to different schools, but at the end of the day, they've only got one dad. And I don't ever want to miss out on some of that. So I think God's wired me differently, even in the past couple of years, to have a different sensitivity to meeting the needs of my kids, and of course my wife's right there as well. And but where we're at right now, this is where we believe that God's going to have us for a long time. And I got to say, like, based on where we've come from, it's exciting that this looks like this is where we're going to put roots down. So
Just doing a reset for you. Craig Olson is with us. He is family. He's my nephew-in-law, teaching pastor at Crossroads Christian Church in Corona, California. He just described what Corona is all about, and now he is there. He also did some time at Bayside Church, which we're going to get into that as well. But I want to stay on Crossroads for a second. It is a unique situation. Now, you mentioned you had been there for a period of time, 2015 to 2018. And what strikes me is Tyler kept bringing up relationships, right? People and everything. And I have to imagine that that's what happened for you in being able to get this opportunity. And it's such a unique opportunity. It's not like you're coming in as the senior pastor. It's a way of like grooming you or allowing you to cut your teeth to be ready in 6 years. And it's like you said, that's a unique situation to have. And then to have someone like Pastor Chuck that is there for you to be able to teach you along the way. I mean, what an incredible mentor. So in your mind, you're like, yeah, couldn't be any better than this situation.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting about that, Steve, is there's always been I've always wrestled with a fear of failing. Mm-hmm. And it's probably, for anybody that might be listening to this right now, that probably resonates immediately that, I've been afraid to fail too. And I think one of the things that I came to grips with and understanding as I started having conversations with Pastor Chuck when he was interviewing and going through all of that, during that season of time where, he did a huge search to bring, his successor in. I asked, Chuck, I need to be given permission that it's okay to fail because, I feel phenomenally unqualified, and that this 6-year window provides such an incredible time to be able to grow and learn. But the crazy part is there's a safety net right there. Like, I can fail and it's not going to be as catastrophic if he would have failed. Now, I'm not talking about like a moral failing or, something like that, but like, hey, I've got this idea. I want to try and implement this new strategy. The strategy didn't work. It failed miserably, but it's okay. And so I think that's what's unique about this situation. And like you said, at the foundation of all of that, our heartbeat of this place has always been relationships. It's always been home. We never thought we would leave here. When we got hired here in 2015, I was the junior high pastor, and I never thought we would leave. And it's incredible to see that God had his own way of working through all of this. And I'll share, when we start kind of going through that timeline of things, I'll share some of the things that people said when I left that, were incredible, like the promptings that the Lord gave certain people on this staff. And even in this church, you see it kind of come full circle. And so it's fun and it's interesting, but it is a unique season. And I have to shout out Chuck. Chuck is a phenomenal leader, and what he is doing right now is empowering me in ways that is, first of all, it's honoring to me. And that's not why I'm in this, but he cares so deeply because what's behind this succession plan, what's behind all of this are people. Like, we're in the business of people, and we go about the Lord's business and his work, not our business and our work. This is all about him. But knowing that this succession plan is so much bigger than him, it's certainly way bigger than me, but it's not bigger than the people that are represented in the kingdom of God that God has placed before us, that we have a stewardship call to go make sure that we're shepherding these people well. And so it's just so unique. And so I got to shout him out. This has been such a fun journey. We've been, a little over a year into this now, and it's been so fun. And I'm learning a lot. I'm being challenged. I have failed. I have not done things well, but I've done some other things that have worked out. And my heart and prayer is that I'll continue to grow and learn. And at the base of all of that is phenomenal relationships and, being willing to, storm the gates of hell and, here we go, saving souls and, building incredible relationships, for eternity.
So Craig, let's talk about that timeline. So you mentioned 2015, junior high pastor. take me before that. I'm trying to remember if that was your very first job. And what struck me there is when you said, listen, we thought we were never going to leave. But I think with this business, like you always, and I do call it a business because being a pastor, it's within the business of the church. There is that aspect of it, is that you do have to be, in a way, there's got to be a small part where you have to be prepared that things could change, right? Like, I agree with you. I think you guys are going to be at Crossroads for a long time. And when 2029 or 2030, that's so weird to even say. Crazy. Like, you're going to be the senior pastor of a church that's been around for 130 years, which speaks volumes, right? But, just take me through that timeline. Again, was it 2015 that was your first position that you had?
So that would have been the second one that we had. So if you go back to college, so I went to Cal State Fullerton, and by the way, ministry, I declared two things that I would never do when I was in high school. And for context's sake, I grew up going to church. Both my parents are believers, and we went to church, and I went to the youth groups and the camps and did all the things. And went a little wayward in high school, and I went to a private Christian school, kindergarten through 8th grade, that was attached to the church that we went to. So for 6 days a week, for 9 consecutive years of my life, I was on my church and school campus. And so that foundationally, that was huge for me. Arrogantly and pridefully, when I graduated high school, I essentially told God, like, I got it from here. Like, I've been around this my whole life. And so I kind of faked my way through high school. So I declared two things when I went to high school in terms of, like, you start thinking about careers and all this stuff, that I would never be a teacher and I would never be a pastor. Like, those two things. Yes, those two things were like I ain't ever going to do that. So I went completely away from that, and I went to Cal State Fullerton and got an accounting degree.
That's
did
right.
Public accounting.
Yes.
Yeah, I did public accounting for 3 years out of college. And what's interesting about that is the accounting firm that I worked for, our niche, I did audit. So there's two different routes you can go. You can go audit or you can go tax. Well, I didn't like tax all that much, so I went the audit route. Our clients, the company that I worked for, we were the leader in auditing nonprofits. So churches, ministry organizations, private universities, things like that, were our clients. So I was going up and down the West Coast, visiting churches, ministry organizations, private universities. I'll never forget going to Point Loma. I was on the audit team for Point Loma, and they put us up. Usually they put us in the dungeon. The auditors, nobody likes them. They put us on the top floor of this building, and we were overlooking the ocean, like the Pacific Ocean, just like it felt like a stone's throw away. And so, but this is what I did. And while this was going on, I kind of rediscovered my relationship with the Lord and really kind of got serious about all of that. And what stemmed from that was really just being lonely. I kind of forsook my relationship with the Lord in high school and kind of faked my way and knew all the answers to get my life group leaders and teachers and all this stuff. My parents, friends that cared about me spiritually, like I knew all the answers to get them off my back. And if it sounds like I'm being prideful when I say that, I was. Yeah. And I just knew. And so I spent my freshman year of college. I did 3 things. I went to work, I went to school, and I went home. And that was it. That was my life. That was my triangle. That's what I did. And I was so lonely. I was battling loneliness. I've never dealt with anxiety or depression or anything like that. But I was lonely.
Wow.
And I had no friends. I had no friends. And I would be in packed out lecture halls, and I would, go to work, and I would do, whatever. And I wasn't alone because there were people near me, but man, was I lonely.
But that's so strange too, because knowing you, like that's so against the grain of the Craig Olson that I knew. But I think it's very important for people to hear, because there's going to be a lot of people that right in this moment are like, yeah, I know what you're talking about, right?
Yep.
Like you said, it's
Yep.
not the anxiety, it's not the depression, but there is the loneliness factor too, which is you could put it right in that category. And I'm sorry, but have you thought of the analogy like of what you did? I mean, that, to me, I'm just thinking of Jesus going to the taxpayers and saying, follow me. Like, do you have that same kind of pull where you're saying, I do not want this, but guess where you are? You're exactly in it.
Yeah, Steve, honestly, I've never put myself in that position of thinking that. Like, you saying that is really the first time that I've ever done that. But what's interesting is I see God's hand in my journey, and anybody, like, regardless of where you're at in your journey, man, pay attention.
Yeah.
Like, be cognizant, be aware of what's happening, because here's what's remarkable. We see promises woven throughout Scripture of God's faithfulness. Mm-hmm. There are so many promises that God gives to people throughout Scripture, and in every single one of those instances where God might make a promise to somebody, on the other side of that covenant, on the other side of that promise, is a human being that doesn't uphold their end of the bargain.
Yeah.
And yet God is still faithful. And when I was battling that loneliness, I knew where the answer was. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes, whether you're a Christian or whether you're not, we battle. We want answers. We want solutions. We want to be able to fix things. And I spent a life far from God, and I spent a life near to God. And I knew, based on the comparison of both of those, that I didn't want to live a life distant from God, because it resulted in phenomenal loneliness. Yeah. And so I knew where my answer was. So I spent my whole freshman year of college doing that triangle of work, school, home, work, school, home. That was it. And I grew up going to Eastside Christian Church in Fullerton, and I remember knowing that I needed to get back to that community. Mm-hmm. Church is, not a building. It's the body of believers, and I needed that. A building wasn't going to satisfy anything, but being around people, I knew that was the cure to the loneliness. But the loneliness was just like the facade. There's always a thing behind the thing, and the thing behind the loneliness was, I was trying to live my life for myself. I was trying to live my life. I thought I had it all figured out. And God was so gracious, and God was so, I think that's what's so remarkable about the God of the universe, is that we always screw up our end of the bargain, right? Mm-hmm. And yet God's just a grace dispenser. He's just given us grace over and over and over again. And there's never enough bad, there's never enough failure, there's never enough sin that could happen in your life where God would get to the point where he would say, you know what? I've dispensed grace. Yep, I've had it. And
no more grace for you.
Yeah. And so what's just remarkable is I said, I'm gonna dive in. And so I started going to the college group. Literally the first night that I went, I met a guy. His name's Tim, and we had so many incredible memories. He's one of the reasons why I'm where I'm at today. And he invited me to go to. They were going to hang out after the college group that night. There was maybe 15 people there. It was awkward. It was brutal. It was not fun. And he goes, "Hey, we're going to In-N-Out. You want to go?" He was about the only guy that I thought, like, oh, this guy I could hang out with. And he invited me to go to In-N-Out, and I said yes. And he invited me to jump in and be a youth leader. And so I started being a youth leader, and met a scrubby group of 8th grade boys. And
is this where the connection comes in?
This is where the connection comes in.
Oh my gosh!
And I meet a guy by the name of Tyler Swaney.
Let's go.
Bunch of other knuckleheads that are.
You know what? He when he described this, he said we were a bunch of knuckleheads.
It's so true, man. They were, but here's what's interesting. They were wild and crazy, but there are like world changers in that group, and we're seeing the results of that. And Tyler, is certainly one of those that is that. And so, anyways, so I start leading this small group with my buddy Tim from 8th grade, and I follow these group of guys from 8th grade all the way through 12th grade.
Nice.
And so 5 years, and I'm loving this. I'm still going to school. I graduate. I start working at this accounting firm, and these guys graduate high school. And I get to year 3 of accounting, working for this audit firm. And I'm like, dude, I don't think I can do this the rest of my life. And I started to feel this sense of, I feel like there's something more for me out there. And my heart was really for youth. I just spent 5 years just several days a week investing. I would go to Tyler. He had a bunch. I mean, this guy Tyler is, one of the most incredible people I've ever met. And he would share, he was changing Troy High School. That's my alma mater as well. Uh-huh. Changing Troy High School for the Lord and running their Christian club and FCA, all the things there. Half the football team, I feel like, came to know the Lord because of him. And we'd go to their football games. They got wildly successful. You guys saw some of those football games.
Yeah.
I mean, they were kind of like the greatest show on turf. Like, You think about those Rams, Marshall Faulk and Kurt Warner and all those guys. Like, this was Troy High School. Like, they could score with the best of them. Their defense stunk, but they could score with the best of them, and that was it. Like, just trying to outscore people. And I was just like, man, there's got to be more I can do. So I started praying, and kind of a long story short, I get into teaching. And there was another part of this whole story of wanting to get out of accounting because I was dating a girl that I wanted to marry. And I was like, man, I was traveling a lot. And I don't know how Tyler told this story, so I'm about to refute any story that he claims.
You know what? It's all yours because he actually said, I'm going to let Craig describe it. So he's giving you the floor on this one.
That's kind. That's kind because the way that Tyler would tell it was he led us boys for 5 years just so he could go date my sister, which we have a lot of fun with that. And I will say that is not how that went down because Christina was first of all, she is your niece. And there is a element that every young teenage boy that came across her path that wrestled with the same thoughts that I had, this girl is way too good for me. Yeah. Like, this girl is she is way out of my league. Like, I have no chance. And I genuinely thought that. And so, I was kind of doing my thing, and what ended up happening was she ended up graduating. So I'd met her a couple times. I coached Tyler in junior high. I coached basketball teams. So I was around his family a little bit, but I was like, this girl ain't ever going to go for me. Like, she's way too good for me. And so anyways, she graduates high school, and we have a mutual friend. And so she starts hanging out in our group of friends. And so of course, same thing, like, she's way too good for me. I had dated a couple other girls at that, sort of throughout those years. And so, it was going into Tyler's senior year. And, I remember driving back. I was driving back from Temecula, from a job site. I was at an audit client driving back. They were playing, at Corona Del Mar High School. And I remember driving back. It was Friday. I was trying to make it to the football game because we always went and supported our guys playing football. And we were going to meet up, a bunch of us friends, college friends, before we were all part of the college group. And I walk into Wahoo's fish tacos in Newport, or in Laguna. And I walk in, and Christina's there, Tyler's sister, and we'd been hanging out, friends or whatever. And she nannied a couple of girls. Couple of they're like 5 and 2, right? The Roberts girls. And those girls were always in tow with her. Like, she would just take them to everything, and they were awesome, so cute. And they're in college now, which is wild. Time flies. But I remember walking into the restaurant, and if you've ever been to that Wahoo's in Laguna, you walk in on the second floor, and then you have to go downstairs into other seating. Well, I walk into that second floor, and I walk in to see if anybody's there, any of our friends, and Christina's at a table sitting there with the girls.
Was she glowing? Was she glowing?
No, legitimately, I walk in, and I am struck by her. And Steve, it's not I mean, we've been hanging out. Like, remember the trip when we came up because we were going to
Yes.
hire a pastor from Bayside? And
Yes.
I mean, we had been around each other so much.
Yeah.
And I walk in there and to this day, I thank God that she did not see me because I know that I had this dumb, like, just staring, like, oh my, and it was a different light.
Yeah.
And I was just struck in that moment by her, and I like kind of catch myself, and I'm just freaking out the whole time. I'm like, what has happened? How come I feel this? Like, and I just really felt like, and maybe it was the Lord, and I'm not one to over spiritualize things, but I felt like the Lord was like, just go for it.
Yeah.
Like, what do you have to lose? Like, just go for it. So I started to show her a little bit more attention. Well, here's where it gets wild, right? I show her some attention. I ask her out. She says yes. That's kind of like, the rest is history. We date, we get married, all that.
Right.
What she admits at our first date was, I have something I need to share with you. And I'm thinking, oh no, like, what are you going to say? And she goes, I've secretly had a huge crush on you for 5 years.
Oh, yes.
I'm like, what? And legitimately, Steve, like, Tia, like,
Oh my gosh.
you have to work, for her affection. She's not like one that's just gonna, like, if she gives you a compliment, doggone it, she means it. She doesn't just throw them out like, oh, hey, way to go. Like, you really have to do a good job if you're gonna get it. Like, and I thought for sure multiple times in our friendship over those few years, like, I thought for sure this girl hated me. Like, she was, borderline cold to me, but what she was doing was she was guarding herself. She was guarding her heart, didn't want to get there. And I'll share this. This is where it kind of turns spiritual. And like I had said, I dated a couple girls or whatever, not at the same time. I want to refute that story. But I dated a couple girls or whatever. And,
it's on the record. We're good.
Yeah. But I asked her one time, I said, why didn't you say anything? And this is how mature she is. She said, what good would it have done? Like, you were dating somebody else, and that's just drama that's not important. So instead of trying to control it herself, she prayed this prayer that I can't tell you how many times I've shared this prayer with people that she's prayed. And it was this prayer. She prayed to the Lord. She said, Lord, I want you to change my heart, or I want you to change his heart. And it's just profound. And I would encourage anybody that's going through something difficult where you have a desire that isn't maybe aligning with where the Lord may have you right now. And that might be with a person, it might be with a job, whatever it might be, to pray that prayer. Lord, change my heart, or change that person's heart. Or
wow, that's so profound. It's
huge,
simple,
huge.
But it's so profound.
Yep. Psalm 51:10 says, create in me a clean heart, O God, and a steadfast spirit. Like, renew this spirit within me. Yeah. And there's something there about this idea that, man, God can change your heart. God can give you a new heart. But God can also change the heart of other people. And she waited, and she prayed that prayer. And certainly, God changed my heart. And there was a lot of maturing that I needed to have happen. She's phenomenal, of course. Like, she's incredible. Like, and she needed a spiritual leader to lead her. And I still feel like she gets the raw end of this deal. I tried to bag her so quick because I was like, dude, she wants to date me? Okay. Are you sure? You're gonna find out real quick how disappointed you're gonna be. But I just said, I genuinely believe that the Lord was preparing me because of the responsibility that I had to lead her in a relationship and to help lead in a marriage. And, so the Lord just really, like, looked out for that. So all that to say, that relationship started to bloom, and I didn't want to be gone from her. And I traveled a lot with the accounting gig. So I started praying, and I got into teaching, and I landed a position at Eastside Christian Junior High and High School. I taught math and business. I coached girls varsity basketball, boys varsity baseball, and I loved it.
Yeah.
Like, I found my stride. And Steve, this is what I thought the Lord had created me to go do was to be a teacher.
Yeah.
I went to school. I got my master's degree in education. I thought this was going to be it. And in between, I did a little thing called Camp Olson. Which is the spin-off. It was a 3-year spin-off of Buzzard Ball.
Yes.
And man, what a time that was when you and I spoke. And I ran Buzzard Ball in Southern California and for 3 seasons, and I loved it.
And a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't know that,
yeah.
And that's what I want to kind of bring to light and stuff, is because that was so much fun. And I remember we got invited down, and I actually got to spend a week with you to actually do the camp. And I just remember it was so much fun. It was so much fun. And the cool thing is that, you know, I thought that was going to continue. Like I said, like we spoke earlier, like I was ready to bring you here to St. Michael's. Yeah. I knew you were good, but then, you know, some things happened, and that's what we're going to get to in segment number 2. And before I end segment 1, I just want to say what you just shared there with what Tia said, that is so big, because that right now, I think a lot of people would say, well, Steve, he's your family. Shouldn't you know all these things? There's a lot of things I knew that we would discuss that maybe I've been hearing for the first time, that being one of them, because for me, my mantra is if there's difficulty in any scenario, as hard as it might be, because first of all, you have to put pride aside, is I always look in the mirror and I say, okay, what can I do better? But the one thing I've never really done, I've never said, well, maybe I should pray for the other side or that other person, that their heart be changed, because I've never thought about it in that way. I've always thought, okay, bring it back to yourself, and just how can you be better in the situation? And I have to say, 9 times out of 10, that usually works. But there are those times where I'm like, oh man, would you just change that person? And so this really kind of helps me with you just saying that. So thank you. That's big.
And what's so profound, Steve, is that prayer changes things.
Yeah.
You know, prayer changes things. You know, this will timestamp the episode a little bit, but I mean, with what's going on, you know, with Damar Hamlin, you know, you think about that, like, what was the country's response to this defensive back having cardiac arrest on the field? What was the response from a nation, from these 2 football teams, from other football teams? What did people do? They did the only thing that they could do. They prayed.
Yep.
And what a scene and what a visual that is. And, you know, and so for what he went through, I think he actually, interestingly enough, this will timestamp the episode even more. He got discharged from the hospital today. And you think about how that rallied a nation, and at the core of that is this factual belief that prayer works and prayer changes things.
Absolutely.
And prayer changed my heart, and it wasn't because of what I did, it's because somebody else was praying for me.
Yeah. Oh man, so good. That's only segment 1, everybody. We got segment 2 coming back. Now, usually everyone that's on this show has a NorCal. There's something about it, and Craig definitely has that. We've talked all SoCal, but we mentioned Bayside. And Bayside in Folsom was a place where Craig and his family were for a few years. He worked alongside another great pastor named Brian Hopkins. And we're going to talk about that and much, much more, because in the final segment, when we do what is called Rapid Fire, we're going to find out how and why. The story is a great one. There's 2 of them, of why Craig Olson is the biggest Alabama fan and the biggest Buffalo Bills fan, but I don't believe has ever lived in New York, nor has he lived in Alabama. It's a great, great story. Don't go anywhere. We're back right after this on Experience the Buzz. What a great opening segment right there. Wow, so much more to come. We got 2 more segments to go, but right now it's time to thank our sponsors, R5 Stitch and Print, Pit Boss Jerky, and Little Whale Swim School. Let me tell you a little bit about them. A great thing about becoming a sponsor is not only do we highlight your business, but you also get to be on the show. That's right. In fact, Troy Rousey of R5 Stitch and Print, he was featured in episode number 25. They specialize in screen printing and embroidery. If you're watching on the video side, this and this. That's right, the hats, the sweatshirt, by my good friend Troy Rousey and R5 Stitch and Print. What I love about them is the quality of product that they put out, and also they have a graphic design artist that is in place. So that person can help you with putting together a package, whether it be for a business or it's personal. I don't know about you, but I'm a visual person, so they can create a portfolio. So again, r5print.com, and a big thank you to R5 Stitch and Print. Pit Boss Jerky. I was just in Amy Hardware today trying to get some things for the house. You know, we had storms here in Northern California, and wouldn't you know it, I walk into Amy Hardware on El Camino Avenue, and there's a display of Pit Boss Jerky. That's right, Joe Green is the Pit Boss, and they've got 12 amazing flavors, including one that is named after this program. It's my favorite. It should be, right? Experience the Buzz. I also love raspberry apple chipotle, and I do love island teriyaki, but that's only 3 of the 12 flavors. You got to check them out for yourself. There's 2 ways that you can find the best beef jerky, I believe, that is made on planet Earth, and that's without bias and without knowing that Pit Boss Jerky is a sponsor of this show. You can go to Amy Hardware. They have 2 locations here in Sacramento. They also have a new location in El Dorado Hills. They are also featured in Knee Deep Brewery, which is located in Auburn, or you can call Joe. It is called the Order Board, and it's 916-769-8607. And then finally, we want to thank Little Whale Swim School, where it's always summer at Little Whale. They can be found at littlewhaleswim.com, located at 4106 El Camino Avenue, right here in Sacramento. If you're getting ready for a swim team, great place to go. Need a great rainy day energy burn? Guess what? Come on in and swim at Little Whale. And also, if you're looking for a job, they are always hiring. They have year-round part-time positions available. Okay, so again, that's littlewhaleswim.com, located at 4106 El Camino Avenue. And I had mentioned episodes. Anya Hall, who is the owner, is featured in episode 6. And prior to that, Joe Green of Pit Boss Jerky, his story is told in episode number 26. This is episode number 109, and we got more of that conversation coming your way right now.
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss an episode of Experience the Buzz by clicking the subscribe button now. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. It means everything. Now, back to the show.
And welcome back. Hope you enjoyed that first segment. And of course, a word from our sponsors. Big thank you once again to our sponsors. You know, they make this show run, although I would do it without sponsors, but it's good to have them support the local businesses. Of course, I'm talking about R5 Stitch and Print, Pit Boss Jerky, and Little Whale Swim School. We are speaking with Craig Olson. It is episode number 109. He is the teaching pastor at Crossroads Christian Church in Corona, California. He will be the senior pastor. He's on this like little 6-year run where he's going to have a mentor in Chuck Boer. Is Boer is how you say it, Craig?
Yep.
Yes?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
That's right.
And then he will take over. So again, a very unique situation. We had a great opening segment. And now we get to the part of how Craig and his family ended up coming to NorCal, okay? So I think it's very important that with this series, listen to the episodes with Tyler, which was last week, Craig this week, and then we're going to be speaking with Jim Swaney, who is the father of Tyler Swaney and the father-in-law of Craig Olson, and is also a pastor, but he's in Sebastopol, which is in the Bay Area. I really encourage you because, see, what Craig doesn't know, he has not heard the episode with Tyler. So as we're talking here, I'm just getting these little like hairs are standing up of what he's talking about, and I'm going to share with him later, but didn't want to say anything within the context of the interview. Just this bounce back now of SoCal, NorCal. Now you get the opportunity. Now, let's set it up. Tyler Swaney had made the move. He joins Bayside of Granite Bay. And then all of a sudden, the family gets word that there is a strong possibility that this man, Craig Olson, and his family may be coming to Bayside as well. I leave it there. Tell us the story.
So, our vocational ministry journey started after 5 years of teaching, and so I was that teacher, and we went to Oceanside for 2 years. We were there for 2 years. Then we came to Crossroads, where we're at today, for 3 years, from 2015 to 2018, and it actually all kind of started in July of 2017. We were up in Tahoe, and Tyler had already made the move up there. Tyler and Allie had already moved up there. We went up there to go visit for 4th of July, and we probably saw family, probably saw you guys, and we went to Tahoe, and we were walking, kind of a family walk, and Tyler goes, "Hey, are you happy where you're at? And I was like, dude, we love it. Like, we love Crossroads. He goes, so you're like, you wouldn't like be thinking about leaving? I'm like, no, like this was our 2-year mark there. We loved it. No, we aren't looking to leave. He goes, okay. He goes, so you wouldn't ever, because we could work together at Bayside. Like, we could, and I mean, we'd always kind of joked like how fun that would be to work together one day. Yeah. But we loved it here. We had community, we had friendships. We had 2 young kids at the time. Cammie was getting ready to start kindergarten. Cade was younger. He wasn't ready to start preschool yet, but we loved where we were at. And so, no joke, the very next week, Tyler calls me and he goes, dude, I have to tell you, I promise, as God is my witness, I did not say anything. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, my boss, Carl, he asked about you and maybe coming to Bayside. And I'm like, what? He goes, yes. And I swear I didn't say anything. I didn't bring up your name. He goes, you just came up because, Steve, every time that we came up to Northern California to come visit you guys and to visit family, Bayside is always the Northern California church home for us because that's where you guys went. Right. So we would always go to Bayside. We would always go there. So, of course, we met people over time. Mm-hmm. Tyler ended up getting hired there. So I got to meet a bunch of staff. But not one time, Steve, did I ever think, well, you know what? I'd really love to work here. Never thought that, ever. And so I remember him calling me on the phone that week after 4th of July. He goes, Carl just said, hey, Tyler, don't you have like a cousin or a brother or something that like is in youth ministry? I feel like I've met somebody. And Tyler, he literally goes, oh, that's my brother-in-law, but they're pretty happy where they're at. And Tyler goes, but he didn't take that as, he wasn't content with that answer. He was like, do you think he would have a conversation? And Tyler's like, I mean, I'll ask, but probably not. So he calls and Tyler basically tells me, he asks, would you be willing to have a conversation? And I'm like, of course. Like, what's a conversation? That's, of course, like, I'll get to talk to whomever and sure. And so a few days later, Tyler's boss calls me and we have a conversation and okay, we'll pray about it, and felt, okay, let's keep having a conversation. At the very, worst case scenario for them, I say no, and we're still content where we're at. So we spent, it was a year-long process, and there were multiple times throughout the process where we thought this is going to end right here. Like, it's just not going to happen. And we prayed a lot about it. We kind of kept it close to our chest. We didn't really want to put it out there. We didn't want people to get their to get their hopes up and then come crashing down. And we'd always gone to Granite Bay, and so we thought that's where we would probably want to be, is Granite Bay. It makes the most sense. I came from East Side, was a bigger church, and it's what I'm comfortable with. It's what I'm used to. And they said, I'll never forget. They said, we're thinking of Folsom for you, and I was like, Folsom. And I remember my first thought was, where the prison is? Like, I think that's everybody's first thought.
Oh my gosh.
And Steve, no joke, we were done. Like, we were going to come back and say no. And they had said the campus pastor at Bayside Folsom would love to get in touch with you. His name's Brian Hopkins. Yeah. And I was like, all right, fine. Like, I'll talk to Brian. And I'll summarize it like this. People generally say you shouldn't really ever make a decision based on one person. Like, you shouldn't ever say yes or no to something because there's one person either involved or not involved. Like, you just shouldn't do it. Not probably business smart or not, super strategic.
Right.
But I sat with Brian, and I got to say, I don't know that I've met, I know I have not met a more humble, kind, caring leader than Brian Hopkins.
Wow.
And that's what you generally see on the exterior, what he leads with. Mm-hmm. He's one of the most strategic, wise, careful, and just he sees people so well. And I got to be honest, I had flown up to Northern California. I think it was March, and I spent a few days with him. And I remember telling Christina, I said, I think this is it. And you will not believe the interaction I got to have with who my boss would be. And that was a game changer. And so we had prayed about it. We said yes, which means we were going to leave Crossroads. And that was hard. It was really hard. I've said already a couple times on here, we loved Crossroads. Yeah. It was us. We have so much DNA. We left a part of our heart here for sure. Mm-hmm. And we went to Northern California, and those 3.5 years that we spent at Bayside Folsom, they were a training ground for me that I didn't know that I was stepping into. And I'll say this right now, if I look back 30 years from now, and I look back on the leader that I prayerfully will continue to develop, there will be so much Brian Hopkins all over, like fingerprints all over, like the kind of leader that I am because of who he is. And I mean, that is a special human being for anybody who's listening right now. And there's a lot of, I mean, Bayside is like the hub of leadership in Northern California, especially the Sacramento area. No question, even in the country, like the caliber of leadership at Bayside is next level. But you get around Brian Hopkins for a few minutes, and you learn real quick, man, there's something different about this guy. Selfless, caring, compassionate, smart, and he is just for you. Like, you'll get around somebody and you kind of like, I don't really, this guy is always for you. And I look back, and when we said yes, going there was going to be hard to leave Crossroads. And I got to tell you, Steve, there were many times when I laid in bed at night and I thought, we went Northern California and we left the confines of Crossroads and the relationships that we had. Man, did I make a mistake? Like, it was hard. We uprooted. We moved 450 miles north, and it's the first time I'd lived outside of Southern California. I'd never lived outside of Southern California.
See, and that's what was big too, because with Tyler, he was talking about, Tyler was used to going from NorCal, SoCal. For you, like you said, this was your first big move. Yeah, you visited NorCal a lot, but you were a SoCal guy. So to be able to step out of your comfort zone and be able to make this move was a really big deal. And obviously, when it came down and you were able to announce it, it was huge news within the family, because we're like, wait, everybody's coming to Northern California. This is beautiful, because I shared with Tyler about the two weddings, his wedding and then your wedding. And, there were so many great memories from your wedding that I was able to DJ with Riley singing with PJ. But the big one for me is when we had the NorCal, SoCal showdown on the dance floor. And it was like, man, there really are differences between NorCal and SoCal. So you were really coming to a place where you had to step out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, and I got to give kudos to my wife, because Tia she is so change averse. She hates change, but her whole life has been change. I mean, she was, out on the mission field till she was 6. She moved back to Northern California, till she was in 6th grade. You think about a 6th grader moving from Northern California to Southern California like she did, and, went through that whole season. What's interesting was in 2017, her parents, Jim and Lisa, Jim will be on next week, like you said, they moved to Santa Rosa and they went to Northern California, and it was hard on Christina. And I look back and I think about, yes, it was hard for her, but there was so much of the relationship here at Crossroads that got her through that really difficult season. And Bayside wasn't on our radar at that point at all. And we were both pretty adamant that we wouldn't leave this place. Like, this is this is a special place. And then when we did go north, I loved that season for her because she was now once again really, closer to her parents, 2 hours away. But we got to spend so much time with you guys, I think some of those most special moments for us, first of all, being able to go to family birthday parties, but man, I think about I think about you and Chrissy coming and watching our kids on Monday night so we could go to small group, and the time that you got to be with Cammie and Cade, like those are special. Like those are special moments. And, just being in proximity. And truthfully, Steve, we thought, I love change, by the way, and so I'm all for it usually. I thought, and genuinely, we were beginning to put roots down in Northern California.
Right.
For a place that we thought, you know what, Folsom, maybe not, but, I got to meet Brian. We were at a place where we thought we could do this. And, everybody was kind of up there, and it was a special season. We loved Roseville. We lived in Roseville, worked in Folsom. We loved it. Loved the school that our kids got to be a part of. We built some pretty good relationships up there, but there was family up there, and it was a special season, especially for Christina, for her to feel like she had that connection once again, because family's big for her. Family's real big for her, and for her to have that closeness for her family up there it was a big deal for her.
Craig Olson is our guest, and I hope you're following along, because do you see how this is all going to weave together? Because right now we're at the portion where he's at Folsom, but then Crossroads, the place he left, comes back into the picture. So you described how hard it was to say goodbye to people at Crossroads. You're at Folsom, you're 3.5 years. Your mentor is Brian Hopkins. You just said top of your list for mentors. And then this final piece of the story comes together. Tell us that piece, because it's pretty amazing how this all weaves together.
I'll never forget it. It was the day before the Thrive Conference was going to begin. And if you're in Northern California and you're listening to this and you've been to a Thrive Conference that Bayside has put on, it was the day before it started, and I was making a run from Folsom to Granite Bay, which is where the Thrive Conference was going to happen, and was driving over there, and I get a text message from Pastor Chuck out of the blue, randomly, and he says, "Hey, wanted to see if you would want to catch up and have a conversation. I'd love to hear about how ministry is going up there, and would love to share and just swap some ideas."
There's that word, conversation, again.
Yeah, hey, and I've always said I'm open to a conversation. And so I said, "Yeah, Chuck, of course. Like, I would love to." And we had a good relationship here. Like, I didn't interact a ton with him. I mean, he was so busy, and I was running junior high ministry here from 2015 to 2018. But yeah, let's have a conversation. And did not expect what I was about to hear in that conversation that I had. And he said, here's where we're at. So every year for the past couple of years, the elders have come to me and they've said that, is this the year that we begin the succession talk, that we have the conversation? And what's interesting is they had started the conversation when I was here in like 2018, and then again in 2019. Here's what's wild. In January of 2020, the elders and Chuck agreed it's time we have the conversation. It's time that we start this process. And I wonder how many people's plans were derailed that they made in January or February of 2020, because then, of course, the pandemic hit and they halted all of that. They said, we need leadership, so we're going to remove the succession plan off the table, and we're not going to talk about that like right now. We're not going to have any discussions about that. And I got to be honest with you, had that started in that moment, I don't know that if say a pandemic doesn't happen, I'm probably not getting a phone call, or I'm probably less likely to say yes to this phone call, because I'm still getting my feet wet. It feels like, I'm still trying to figure this thing out. and we were, we wanted to give Northern California as fair a chance as any, and so let's do this thing. So I find that to be very interesting. But in May of 2021, he calls and we start having this conversation. He's telling me all this background, and he says, but this year, 2021, the elders believe that this is the time to start the conversation. So I'm beginning a nationwide search, and they've tasked me with coming up with 10 men to come and be a part of an interview process. And I thought of you, and I would love for you if you'd be open to it. Now, here's what I'm thinking. Chuck, this is so nice of you. This is so kind. But this is just this kind of a nod to you were great here. We loved having you here.
Like, good work, Craig, right?
Like, I'm on number 9, and I'm having a really hard time finding a number 10. So you're just filling a line at this point.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm just like, okay, sure. Like, let me pray about it, talk to Christina. And so we do. And we went through about 4 or 5 months of interviews. And what's so interesting was I listened to a podcast during my time up in Northern California, and it was actually closer to probably this time where it talked about when we grieve something, what happens is it creates a longing inside of us. I think it was a podcast by Annie F. Downs, I believe, and she talks about how there's this process that you go through when you grieve something, that what happens is there is a longing for something that you're grieving. And we grieved when we left here. We grieved when we left Crossroads. We missed it dearly. We had very special relationships here. And I found myself longing for the kinds of relationships that we had built here at Crossroads. And I think that's really all that I could say about that. But I experienced this desire was being sort of welled up inside of me a little bit. And so we prayed a lot about it. And I'll say this, and this is another shout out to Brian. I was very open with him from the very beginning, and I genuinely sought his leadership and his wisdom because I valued him a ton.
Sure. And
so I was very open from the very beginning, and I think it's a very special attribute about who he is. There's some people out there that, even in churches, sadly, and I know stories like this that I've heard from people where they let somebody know that there's maybe my employment might be coming to an end, or I'm thinking about accepting a position somewhere else, where the response is, oh no, you can go ahead and take it, because when you walk out of this door right now, you're done. And people will, it's happened. I know of stories that have happened. And I got to credit Brian. We had hours of conversations, and I'll look back and think of those memories fondly as we talked about life and ministry and talked about the process that I was going through, and he was giving me his wisdom, and he was, and it wasn't self-serving. It wasn't like, are you really going to leave me here? Are you really, like, I've poured a lot into you. Like, it was...
Hey, Craig, is there one big piece of advice that he gave you that kind of has stuck with you, whether it be during this process or him just during the 3.5 years of being your mentor?
I think what he wanted me to tap into was, and he wasn't going to give me an answer, right? He wasn't going to be like, do this or do that.
Yeah.
He was genuinely a mentor, and still is to this day. And, but he kept asking the question, what do you think you're supposed to do?
Yeah.
Like, what do you believe that the Lord is leading you to do? Mm-hmm. He goes, I'm going to give you versions of certain things, but it was just so, sometimes we get so caught up in thought processes, and we think about pros and cons, and sometimes we overcomplicate decisions.
Sure.
And he was so simplistic in the way that he approached it that he just kept asking, what do you think you're supposed to do? What do you think is going to be best for your family? Mm-hmm. But ultimately, what do you think the Lord's asking you to do here? And And you know what's crazy is in both of these situations, when we left Crossroads the first time and then we left Bayside, we asked for the Lord. And, you know, when it comes to asking the Lord for signs, right? Lord, we want the flashing neon sign, right? We want the like, do this, do. In both of those situations when we prayed, we didn't get that. And I genuinely believe in both of those situations. The first time I felt like it came from the Lord when we left Crossroads. He told us, you know what? I could use you at Crossroads or I could use you at Bayside. And we got that same exact answer. This time it actually kind of felt like it came through people. And Brian was one of those people that really made it clear, you know what? The kind of person that you are, and he was so gracious to me, but the kind of person that I felt like he was telling me, he told me, the kind of person that you are, God will use you no matter where you go. Right. And that meant a lot to me. And he's still, I would consider him to be one of the most profound, impactful people in my life. And, you know, I always say this, that I tell people here at Crossroads from time to time that if you ever spent some time around Brian, you would recognize like, oh yeah, I could see why, I could see that you spent some time with that guy because I see how he's rubbed off on you. And so true. And so I think about, you know, Brian and certainly Chuck's leadership, and man, I've been spoiled and beyond what I'm owed. It's been a joy being back here. You know, it's a continuous journey. Just to even shout out Brian. So back in October of 2021, the church Crossroads turned 130 years old, and we had made the announcement that week that Crossroads was changing. That they announced that Pastor Chuck would be retiring in 6 years, and that I would be taking over senior pastor. The love and support and excitement from people was humbling and emotional and exciting to know that these are the people that I'm going to be able to do ministry with. But here's the kind of guy that Brian is. He came down that week and was here for a few days just to be able to support and to be here. And I think about just the kind of guy that he is. And if anybody is listening and you're in Northern California, go to Bayside Folsom just for a weekend and just try and meet him. Like, Brian, I'm sorry if you get flooded with a bunch of people, but you'll quickly see how special and how anointed he is by God. And that you talk about a guy doing what they were put on earth to do. That's a guy that's living that out. And I get to do both of that. I saw that with him, and I'm getting that with Pastor Chuck. Yep. Couldn't be more excited about what awaits, you know, me and my family, and certainly, you know, the incredible people here at Crossroads.
Yeah, let me give this some context as well, too, because as you're speaking and making these big decisions, I remember being at Arcade Baptist Church, and I had described this last week in my conversation with Tyler, that, you know, they were coming off when I came to Arcade with my wife, Kristen. Pastor Lee Toms had been there for 40 years. He was retiring. They were bringing in this new guy, and his name was Daniel Henderson. Well, Daniel Henderson is the one that led me to the Lord. Like, I heard one of his messages, and a light bulb went off. You know, to put it in a nutshell, I'm like, wait, it's not about religion, it's about a relationship. And so I got baptized at age 30. And I believe Daniel was there for a solid, I don't know how many years, but we would do this thing every year, and churches do this. We do a 40-day kind of spiritual journey. And within that journey, at the end, you kind of see where you're at, if things change. Well, we did one year, and at the end of the journey, he comes on one Sunday and says, well, I have decided to take a pastor role in Minnesota. And I have to tell you, my heart broke. It was just like heartbreaking, because I was just like, wait, this is not how it's supposed to happen. But as I sit here and I'm hearing your story, and I know a lot of this, but not all the details, it goes to show you where the pride comes in. Like, I wanted Daniel there for me. Right? And not really realizing, well, wait, God is calling him to be somewhere else. What can you get out of that? And so I relate those two things like so like in such a big way. And then, for us, we were at Granite Bay for many years. When you came to Folsom, it was a pretty easy decision. I know it didn't happen right away, but we're like, yeah, we got to go support Craig and be there at Bayside Folsom. And we loved the community. We loved it. Yeah. We probably didn't get engaged as much as we should have, but we were definitely there for you and then Brian Hopkins. And here's the last kicker. I'm DJing a wedding, and guess who the officiant is? Brian Hopkins.
Yep.
Then Brian comes to me and he goes, well, my daughter's getting married in April of this year. And I said, well, I would obviously love it. Well, I could tell that he didn't want to make a decision. He stuck around because usually officiants will do their thing, maybe eat dinner, and then they're out, right? Yep. He hung around with one of his other daughters, and he came up to me and he says, yeah, I think we'd like you to be our DJ. Can I get you in contact with my daughter? Well, I'm DJing their wedding in April, so there you go. So good stuff. And it was great because I had never met Brian in person, so it was really nice to talk to him. And of course, I brought you up and stuff. So just a great conversation. And it's just, it is amazing how God works. And so with your situation, I finished this way. We obviously were deeply saddened over the fact that you guys are going to leave us. But the way I looked at it was like, wow, what a great 3.5 years we had with you. Yeah. And what happened just this past weekend? We went down to Disneyland. Who'd we hook up with? You guys down in downtown Disney. So that's how I think it's all perspective in how you treat things. So Craig, I'm very grateful that you shared your journey because I think it speaks in a lot of ways to people where they can really, like I said, point to something like, yeah, I understand what he's talking about. Yeah. And if I told you this, we're not done because then we got some fun stuff coming up in segment 3. Are you ready for rapid fire? Would you be okay with that?
I love a good rapid fire. Lightning round. Let's do it.
All right. So such a great conversation. We're going to take another break, come back, and we'll get right to it, rapid fire, and also let Craig kind of close things out in terms of people that are out there that are just figuring out man, what does this all mean? How can I have a connection? This thing about prayer, which came up with Tyler in a big way. Maybe Craig can put a finishing touch on that as well. So don't go anywhere. More of Experience the Buzz coming your way in just a moment. All right, another amazing segment in the books. We got Rapid Fire right around the corner with our guest today, Craig Olson. Time to thank our sponsors, Pit Boss Jerky, R5 Stitch and Print, and Little Whale Swim School. Pit Boss Jerky, you can find their great product, which is beef jerky. They got 12 amazing flavors. Order board, the number is 916-769-6807. Yes, it's that easy. You can call and place your order, or you can go to Amy Hardware, located in 3 locations, 2 here in Sacramento on El Camino Avenue, and 1, which is the newest, just opened a few months ago in El Dorado Hills. Or if you're in the Auburn area, Knee Deep Brewery, they feature there as well. And I'm not kidding. It is great. 3 flavors that I will highlight for you. My favorite, it's named after the show, Experience the Buzz. Yes, that's without bias. It's really good. And then you got Raspberry Apple Chipotle and Island Teriyaki. Next up, I want to thank R5 Stitch and Print on the audio or video side. You see the sweatshirt here. You see the hat here. It is all done by my good friend Troy Rousey and his crew. You can find them on the web at r5print.com or call 916-454-3773. Quality of the product is top shelf, and delivery too, man. It comes in on time. Definitely check it out. They do screen printing and embroidery of all kinds and things you wouldn't even think of. So definitely check it out if you're trying to do anything for business or personal. And then finally, Little Whale Swim School. They are located at 4106 El Camino Avenue in Sacramento. You can find them at littlewhaleswim.com. Getting ready for swim team? Boom, go to Little Whale. Need a great rainy day energy burn? Boom, go to Little Whale. And if you're looking for a job, they are hiring year-round and also have part-time positions available. Again, big thank you to our 3 sponsors. Now let's get to Rapid Fire with our guest this week, Craig Olson.
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss an episode of Experience the Buzz by clicking the subscribe button now. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. It means everything. Now, back to the show.
All right, welcome back. We are here for the final segment. It is the new year, 2023, getting ready to celebrate what would be year 2, the end of year 2. Hard to believe. We have banked 109 episodes. You're listening to episode 109 right now. It is Craig Olson. He is the teaching pastor at Crossroads Christian Church in Corona. He has shared his wonderful journey with us, and now we get to a thing called Rapid Fire. Now, I had mentioned earlier Buffalo Bills and Alabama. Okay, and so I'm just going to leave it there. This is a SoCal guy. You would think, right? LA Lakers, Dodgers, Angels, all those teams. And he does have some affection for those teams, but it's all about Alabama and Buffalo Bills. But we wonder, how can that happen? Where do you want to start? You want to start with Alabama or Buffalo Bills?
Probably Bama. That's
okay.
That's the deep passion. Yeah,
let's go Bama.
So it's funny you said that the Lakers and Dodgers, Angels, those allegiances are there because honestly, those teams were always there.
Yeah.
And, pro football, we had teams that loved us and didn't love us here in SoCal. And college football, USC felt like it might as well have been, or UCLA might as well have felt like it was in another state because it was just, it's LA. People think, oh, you lived in LA. And it's like it's a couple hours because traffic is brutal. So anyways, all that to say, I'm 8 years old. My best friend growing up, him and his family are huge Miami Hurricanes fans. Huge. And again, I don't know the connection. They just were. And he invites me over to the national championship game, the 92 national championship game on January 1st, 1993. And it's Miami and it's Alabama, and they're playing each other in the Sugar Bowl for the national title. And it's just green and orange everywhere in his house. Just vomit of green and orange everywhere.
I was going to say, 2 bad colors for a combination.
Tough.
Yeah.
Tough. The funny part is my buddy's dad, he was colorblind, and for the longest time, he thought that they were orange and brown. And he says, "Hey, can you bring me my brown Hurricanes hat?" And he goes, "What are you talking about?" "Yeah, the brown on my dresser." He goes, "Dad, that's green." He goes,
"Oh my gosh,
it's green." So, anyways, walk in, green and orange everywhere.
I'm 8 years old.
8 years old. 8 years old. What does an 8-year-old do? You root for the other team. Like, you're just that turd of a kid, and you're just like, "Go Bama!" And you're just rubbing your face. Bama wins the game, and it just became a burning passion ever since. The funny part is they were trash
right
from that point on, and the late 90s and early 2000s, they sucked. They were so bad.
But you were still a fan, though, even during those
huge
times.
Fan.
Yeah,
huge. Watched every game. Got excited when we went 7-5, which of course now we're spoiled. And so, anyways, just became a huge fan. Nick Saban shows up. He just, turns everything and all of this. Here's the great part. It's kind of great. I've only been to one Alabama game in my entire life. I've never been.
This is great.
Never been to the state of Alabama. Never been to Tuscaloosa. Interestingly enough, the high school pastor on our staff, his name's Sawyer. He's from Alabama. He went to the University of Alabama.
Oh my gosh!
Went to football games, basketball games. All that. I just sit. We share stories. He was there. I was watching it on TV. Whatever. And so the owner operator of the Folsom Chick-fil-A, who was a part of Bayside Folsom, he got 2 tickets to go to the national championship game in 2019. And of course, it's the college football playoff at that time, and you've got the semifinals, and then you've got the final. So Alabama plays Oklahoma in the semifinal, and he's like, "I'm going to invite you to go," and I was like, "Oh dear Lord, please don't let this be the time that we lose to Oklahoma. Like, we've got to get there. National championship game is in Santa Clara. We go. They play Clemson, and it's the year that Tua was quarterback." And Trevor Lawrence just carved us up, and we lost. So I'm 0-1 in my career going to Alabama football games. And I am I cannot wait. I cannot wait to get a winning record of in-person games. And so
you need 2 victories. You need 2 victories.
Yeah, I need 2. I need 2 victories. Preferably back-to-back would be great. And
I'm just going to say this, Craig. I don't even think you're doing the passion that you have justice, and so that's where I will speak. At his wedding, there was the wedding cake, and then there was the Alabama cake. Okay, so the passion runs deep. This guy on game day, even family cannot get through to him. Okay, no. Even their dog Bear, which rest in peace. I know passed away and everything. Yep. Bear, it needs to be out of the way because things could happen on game day. Although I would say that you've experienced a lot more wins than you have losses. So
we're spoiled. And when Nick Saban's done, it's going to be painful and all of that. Here's what's funny: my wife and I disagree on every single team ever. Like, she hates the Angels, she hates the Dodgers, hates the Lakers, hates them all. The one thing that she adopted was Alabama football. And here's what's great. I can be pretty negative, honestly. Like, I'm not the fan that's like, oh, Alabama's the greatest team ever. Like, we're not good this year. We struggled. I did meet Bryce Young at Disneyland. I got to share that story with you. It was incredible. Shout out to you, Bryce Young. And loves the Lord. Love that. And but Christina's the one that's like, they're going to pull through. 2 years ago, the Auburn game at Auburn, we're down 10-3. We look like just junk. It's terrible. I was sitting back on the couch. I took my hat off, threw the hat. We're done. Like, she goes, "Where's your faith?" Like, it's gonna happen. There have been multiple times that's happened that she's like, an optimist in it, and I'm not. And so, anyways, bleed the Crimson. And can't wait to go to Tuscaloosa. Cannot wait to go to Tuscaloosa.
I was going to say, that's got to be your bucket list to be able to experience that. Yeah.
Yep. Without a doubt.
And it's crazy, too, because there are a lot of Northern California kids that go to Alabama. That's a place to go to. It's big.
So Jonah Williams, who graduated of Folsom High, went there. Here's what's funny. I had some students, because I was doing high school ministry at Bayside Folsom and a few other things. The week after I left, Nick Saban was at Folsom High School.
No.
We had moved, and he was doing a recruiting trip to it was a couple weeks after, I think. A couple weeks after, he was at Folsom High School. And so anyways, a couple kids have gone there, and but love Alabama football. Love college football is probably my favorite. I love baseball too, but something special about Saturdays in the fall.
Okay, so similar story, Buffalo Bills. Tell us about that. How'd that one go?
That one's a little less adversarial when it comes to rooting against other people. We had football teams here that didn't really love us. The Rams wanted to go to St. Louis. The Raiders never could make up their mind where they wanted to go, and they just popped around. And again, I was 8 years old. It must have been a formative age for me.
My goodness.
And they're in the Super Bowl, and they lose. And I was like, I kind of like. I honestly probably like the colors like more than anything. And they're in the Super Bowl again. I was like, I love these guys. Well, then, of course, they lose to the Giants. They lose to the Redskins. And then Redskins, Giants, Redskins. And then they go play the Dallas Cowboys. Well, my grandma was a huge Dallas Cowboys fan. I can't judge her for the reason that she liked the Cowboys, because I like the Bills and, Crimson Tide out of spite, really. But she loved Tom Landry and the way that he dressed as their coach, like back in the, I don't even know, 70s. I don't know when he coached there. But she just thought he just looked so good. And I was like, Grandma, you're crazy. And I was like, go Bills. Like, they've been in it 2 years in a row. They have to win. They lose the third one. They lose the fourth one. And you talk about pain and misery again. Like, that franchise was a disaster. So we're crossing our fingers now. We're Josh Allen special, and so hoping that that they pull it out. So, yeah.
Well, but you say it's not the same. Is it the same amount? It's not the same amount of passion as you have for Alabama, right?
Yeah, not really. And honestly, a lot of it has to do with the fact that I don't really get to watch the Bills all that much. Like, I don't have NFL ticket, and I mean, when would I watch it? Most of their games are 10 a.m. on Sunday. I was going to say you work on Sunday. I'm trying not to be bitter that they drew the 10 o'clock slot for the wild card weekend right now. I'm like, they could have had Saturday or Sunday night. Nope, they got Sunday at 10 a.m. But they should hopefully take care of business. Yeah. But yeah, it's not as big. But I got to tell you, like, over the past couple of years, it's become more exciting because they're good. It's always more fun when you're good. It's always more fun. But I'm not a fair weather guy. I'm faithful to my teams. So I'll be Crimson Tide till I die, and Buffalo Bills till I die. And
I
of course
love
the
it.
Lakers are in that. Angels and Dodgers. I do love them both. Special memories for each of those two teams. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. So that was kind of a rapid fire, like extended edition. I think people
Yep.
needed to figure out, okay, what's
Yep.
behind this Alabama Buffalo Bills thing? And I always love hearing the stories. So these will be a little bit quicker on the answers and stuff. When you think of favorite sports moment, it could either be personally or it could be something professionally. What do you think? What comes to mind?
I probably have two. My favorite professional sports moment was in it was September, it might have been October. I think it was October of 2002, and was at Angel Stadium, Game 6 against the Twins. Adam Kennedy hits 3 home runs
Yes.
in the ALCS, and I had seats in the bleachers. This is a great story too, because there are a lot of fans in Northern California that do not like the 2002. They were the California Angels at that, or Anaheim
The
Angels
Rally
at that.
Monkeys, right? Was that Rally
The
Monkey
Rally
time?
Monkeys, yep.
Yeah.
And so we beat the Twins. Adam Kennedy hits 3 home runs, and I thought for sure the stadium was going to collapse.
Yeah.
And there's just one of those things where you're just blown away at how loud that place was. Of course, we go to the World Series and we play the San Francisco Giants, the heavily favored San Francisco Giants, and we take care of business there. And I love that. I preached that at Folsom a couple times, and had people tell me where they were when they lost Game 7. And Giants had their chances. They were up late in Game 6, and they squandered it. And but anyways, love that. Hate the Giants.
We
Big
share
Dodger
that.
fan too.
We
But
share
genuinely, that sports fan moment was fun. Personal sports, oh man. I don't know. This was probably more recent. It's probably not. It's not for me. It's probably for my son Cade. Honestly, we're playing. He's playing flag football. I don't think I'll be. I prayerfully am not one of those dads that's going to live vicariously through their sons. But this was just a special moment for him. He's playing flag football, and they were in a playoff game this past season. He's 8. Okay, so take it with a grain of salt, folks. But he's 8, and it's tied. And if they don't, this other team basically is going to throw a Hail Mary to try and win the game. And so quarterback drops back, and Cade's back. He's playing safety. He's got good ball hawk skills, whatever. He just loves the game. He's got tons of energy. He's pretty fast too. So runs around, intercepts the ball, runs it back for a pick 6 with zeros on the clock. They win. They go to the next round of playoffs. It was fun. It was just that was probably my most fun, like, recent memory for him. My sports career is, not stellar to say the least. And so I probably don't have any, very special sports moments, but that was
We'll give it to Cade. We'll give it to Cade this time.
Give it to him.
All right, and we finish out with Disneyland. We're big fans of the family. I know you guys have season passes and everything. Whether it be Disneyland or California Adventure, what is your favorite ride?
I'd say right now it's Incredicoaster at California Adventure.
Yep.
Jamie and Cade love it, so I love experiencing that with them. But my all-time favorite is Space Mountain.
Okay,
I mean,
cool.
It's great.
You know what?
Fun.
And it's interesting with Space Mountain because for a period of time they went with the Star Wars theme, and being there just recently, they've gone back to the original.
They do the original. That? They'll do like the Hyperspace Mountain, which is like the Star Wars theme.
So they go back and forth.
They'll kind of go back and forth, but then during the holiday season, especially during Halloween, they do the I don't even think it's called something different, but they have like ghosts in there. And
oh, really?
It's a little different. It's a little, I don't know, scary, whatever.
Yeah.
But that one's great. It's especially great when it's hot out because you go inside and it's air conditioned and it feels good. So that's probably the old man in me talking now. Like, just give me some air conditioning.
I love it. Tyler says 33. How old are you now?
38.
38. Okay, so 5 years difference between the two of you. Well, it's been a great conversation, and I just kind of want to finish off this way of just like you just speaking to the audience. This series that I'm doing is in place on purpose because I just wanted to make sure that, outside of you guys being family, of course, I think it's very unique that within our family, we have three of you that are pastors. And I've always spoken very highly of Jim. He was a huge mentor for me in terms of just questions I had about the Bible and Jesus and, my relationship and everything. And he's been absolutely huge. And now to watch you and now to watch Tyler's just been an amazing thing. So anything as a last word that you would like to share with the listeners out there that may be a believer or not a believer?
Yeah. Well, there's a word that you just said, Steve, that I think is so crucial. It's purpose. You just said you're doing this series on purpose, and for every single person that's listening to this, no matter when you listen to this, I want you to know that you were made, you were created on purpose, for a purpose, and with a purpose. And my hope and prayer for every single person, believer or not, would understand that that you matter and that your life is special, and you did not create yourself. God is the author and perfecter not only of our faith, but he's the creator of all. And my hope is that you would encounter the Lord. If you've never encountered him, that you would one day. And if you feel like it's been a dry season for you, my hope and prayer is that you would experience the Lord in a way that you never have before. And I don't know why I feel like sharing this right now, but I even want to speak to the people that have been hurt by the church. The church is not perfect. There's no question about it. I feel particularly really passionate about this, actually, being an older millennial. And the church hurt is real, and the church doesn't always get it right. There's no question. We're a bunch of imperfect people trying to exist with other imperfect people in an imperfect world. But yet this is exactly how God designed this, that we would be the messengers, that we would be the ones trying to distribute grace, not making ourselves famous, but making God famous. And if you've ever been hurt by the church, I want to say sorry on behalf of the church, really, that there have been some hard things, and I'm not discrediting any of that. There's been really hard stuff. My hope is that wherever you're at on your journey, that your eyes would be able to fix on Jesus, because if you fix your eyes on Jesus as followers, you'll always be let down. And Jesus is the only one that can handle all the things that you're going through, and he can handle it all. So give it to him, and just don't forget that purpose. And you're created on purpose, with a purpose, and for a purpose. And so, Steve, man, I appreciate you and your faith journey, and honestly, the conversations that we've been able to have over the years, and just appreciate you and your impact and what you're doing, and this special series that you're doing. It's been a true honor to be a part of it. So thanks for having me, Steve. Really appreciate it.
Wow. Everyone, he is Craig Olson. We'll be back with a final word. So there you have it. Man, I've still got goosebumps, and I'll tell you why. Because now we've had 2 segments. And so if you're just listening to this segment with Craig Olson, my invitation to you is to go back and listen to the one with Tyler Swaney, which was last week, and then invite you to join us next week when we talk to Jim Swaney. So these are 3 people in my family that are all pastors, but all share a completely different experience. I hope you saw that through today, and Craig being able to share his story. And there's so many things that stuck out for me. And again, I know you would say, well, listen, isn't he family? You should know these things. No, there's not a lot of things. There's some things you don't get a chance to talk about, but what a great platform to have here with Experience the Buzz where we can do that. So I'm very humbled and very privileged that I had this opportunity to be able to share those kind of things on this platform here with Experience the Buzz. So again, we invite you to tune in next week. We'll do it on the weekly. We got some great shows lined up for you, and we're very excited to bring it your way. My name is Steve Buzzard, your host. Love doing it for you. It's good stuff. Thanks. That's all I got for now. Talk to you next time. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you for joining Steve this week on Experience the Buzz. Steve would love to hear from you. Leave a review or contact Steve directly with any questions at scbuzzard@gmail.com. To see the other adventures of Steve Buzzard, be sure to visit buzzardball.com.